All right. This is Craig LeBlanc with the Daily Bitcoin Podcast on my way to Atlanta. I am hopefully signing a sponsorship deal with the Atlanta Braves for my other podcast. So wish me luck. That'll be one of our first big major ones for the stuff we're doing over there. So I had to take my gear on the road because I've got 6 podcasts. I'll be gone for 3 days, do 2 podcasts a day, one in the morning, one in the evening. So now I am somewhere between New Orleans and Atlanta on my way to meet with a great group of people. So, all right. So Adam had to reschedule. He had a friend come up. So we're going to have him on Friday if everything works out. And Adam again works in he's in the mining business when it comes to Bitcoin, but not any kind of mining. He's that part of the Bitcoin community that's going after stranded energy. And what do we mean by stranded energy? Well, for those of you who don't know, Bitcoin consumes a big amount of electricity to run. Well, I say big, for what it does, it's tiny. For the value it provides, it consumes a very tiny bit of electricity. So if you think about all the value that, say, a bank brings to its community and what it has to have. So to run a bank, you need to have a brick and mortar building, property. You pay taxes. You have employees. You have air conditioning. You have electricity. You have water. You have all the things of running a business. Well, Bitcoin can do a lot of the same tasks for an individual or for a community to run their economy on the Bitcoin network, but it does need miners and electricity to secure the network. And so these miners are very power dense. They consume 28, 30, 40 amps of electricity of 220, actually sometimes 277. The new ones are on 480 volts. It's just a higher voltage, makes the whole system more efficient. But you can fit a tremendous amount of energy or electrical load with Bitcoin mines in a very small footprint. And so this is fantastic for stranded energy because that means you can bring the customer to you. So with Bitcoin, if you're an energy producer, you don't have to go to the customer comes to you. And so you can imagine if you're building a grid scale powerhouse and you're trying to get as close as you can to the consumer, you're trying to get close to a city. And as much as cities like electricity, nobody wants to be next to a power plant. So you got to kind of put them out there, kind of off away from the major population. And then you got to run these big transmission lines in to sell your electricity. And turns out a big chunk, if not most of the cost associated with paying your electric bill is in transmission, getting the electricity from the powerhouse all the way to your kitchen counter. Think about all the wire that stands between your counter on your receptacle, all through your walls, all through the subdivision, all to the substation, getting on these local transmission lines, and then these very long transmission lines that go into the power plant. And so who maintains all that wire, all that cable, all those connections, all those towers, all those telephone poles, all those transformers, also that you can boil water on the coffee pot. So that's a lot of work to get, 50 amps of 220 out of a single residence, so you pay a couple $100 for that versus, the Bitcoin community or the Bitcoin industry can load up a sea can full of Bitcoin mines and consume what entire subdivisions consume inside of an 18-wheeler size sea can. And so this is called co-location, when your customer can basically reside on the same property as your power plant producer. And so this is revolutionizing, or in the process of revolutionizing power, how power is brought online, how we access energy. It's a different story when you can bring unlimited demand, and it can show up on trucks, and it can drop down inside the fence of your power plant. And they can consume all of this power off peak. So, for those of you that don't know, if you're a power company, you're trying to run this power grid, there are peaks. There's peaks and valleys. And essentially, when you wake up in the morning, everybody cooks breakfast, turn on the coffee pots, gets ready for go to work, that kind of stuff. And there's a massive demand for electricity from a residential or populated area. And then throughout the day, it kind of goes off and then it peaks back up. So probably about 2 to 4 hours of the 24-hour day are what called peak demand. And then you have this deep valley, this 20-hour valley between those two peaks, where these power plants are just kind of idling. They really don't have any demand. So they have these very expensive plants called peaker plants to kind of, you know, bring in power at those peak moments. Um, and so essentially, you've got these very expensive assets that are just idling, sitting around, not really doing much for 20 hours a day. And that's where Bitcoin miners can come in and say, hey, we'll buy that cheap power. You don't have to even use transmissions lines to get it to us. We'll bring our demand to your doorstep, plug into the plant itself. And then these power plants now can sell all this off peak capacity, number one. Now, that's not the world that Adam's in. There is stranded energy in the middle of fields, in the middle of old oil fields, old gas wells, or gas wells that have natural gas that they can't bring to market. So they have to flare it off. Um, and so these are opportunities for a Bitcoin miner to go drop like a 2-3 megawatt generator. Adam can talk about that. I think this is the exact world that he's in. I think his company, and I hope I'm not misrepresenting him too much, but this is his company. Manufactures and makes these generators that can run off of this natural gas, and then the Bitcoin mines kind of plug into them. And we're going to hear how him and his company and all that play in that whole game. But if you ever wanted to know about stranded energy and how Bitcoin is kind of bringing this stranded energy to market, or utilizing this flared gas, which is very bad for the environment. I think it is. Let me let Adam answer that question a little bit better than me. But at least it's not a waste product. It turns it from a waste product into the most pristine asset on planet Earth, which is Bitcoin. And we need Bitcoin miners to secure the network. They're always in search for cheap power, and it doesn't have to be the cleanest power. It's not like this AI power that has to be 24/7 all the time on hospital grade clean electricity. That AI energy needs to be cleaner than hospital energy. You can't have brownouts at a hospital. You want like multiple backups and backups on top of backups for emergency situations, for critical infrastructure. And AI needs super clean power, even cleaner than the cleanest power. I think I've heard that Elon and them had to strap on a bunch of those big power, what do they call it? Mega packs, mega battery packs that they make up there in Austin, because the inrush of power needed for when Grok and these big GPUs and CPUs, when they crank up because they're thinking, they demand this huge amount of electricity, and then they can just shut it off in a millisecond, and they can cause what's called jitters, and it can be like smoking breakers and tripping all kind of I guess you would call like safety fuses and stuff. So they had to get in response to that on top of a very clean grid in Memphis, Tennessee. So they're right in the middle of a big city, big industrial area, right on the river. And so Bitcoin really isn't after that super clean power. It can be intermittent power. It can be stranded in the middle of nowhere. It doesn't have to be. It can be in the middle of a jungle. It can run off of coal. It can run off of natural gas. It can run off of, nuclear, in the middle of the jungle. And then you can say, well, we can only give you power 20 hours a day. The other 4 hours we need for this big city next to us. So you're going to have to turn your Bitcoin mines down. And Bitcoin miners like, no problem. We'll work it into the equation, come up with a deal. And now everyone's happy. Bitcoin miners get cheap electricity. The power companies get to utilize this idle asset that they've got, big notes against. And so they're looking to somewhat make that a profitable asset 24 hours a day, not just 4 hours a day. So anyway, this is what Adam is kind of in, and I'm excited to have him on the show. We also had Dr. Ahmad Amous is coming on next Friday, so back-to-back Fridays. And he is gonna last time I had him on the show, this is a super smart guy. You're gonna learn a lot from on this show, and not just about Bitcoin. He is a Bitcoiner. Of course, his brother wrote the Bitcoin Standard, so his brother kind of converts him, I'm sure, but he's an awesome Bitcoiner. But his real claim to fame, he wrote a book, and it's all about the power of being out in the sun, the health benefits of being out in the sun, to the eyes, the skin, the health, everything. And I really had a good time with him. So I can't wait to have him on the show. And then he was also big into the carnivore diet, all three of which I'm a big fan of. So that's going to be another special treat. A couple others. I don't know if y'all remember Tracy. She helped me out on our Friday show. She's my girl from Birmingham. She's going to come on the show. We haven't set a time yet. And then got a couple others that are in the works. Oh, Thomas, he is the CFO of the largest Bitcoin only exchange in Europe. He'll be coming on. He's a close friend of mine I met over in Miami when I first decided to get into Bitcoin. So got a little surprise for y'all. All right. So y'all know I've got some video content creators that work for me full time, helping me build these couple of podcast brands. And they make these little explainer videos for us. Typically, it's all been for the daily Parks and Rec show. But I asked Chris, I said, hey, Chris, watch a couple of my episodes and just make me 60-second about Bitcoin. And so he's not, I don't think Chris is, I actually haven't even asked him yet if he knows a lot about Bitcoin and stuff, but he's watching our shows. So I guess he's learning. But he put, I think, Ethan Ripple in there somewhere, or allowed it to be in there. I said, well, we might want to wipe that out. But anyway, it's still there. Let us know what we can do to improve on this. I thought it was good. And this is the kind of stuff I want to do. I want to have several digital artists on staff that I can say, hey, paint me a picture. Give me a good 60-second on, listen to me and Adam next Friday and give us a good 60-second commercial promoting the industry of Bitcoin, helping to access stranded energy or wasteful energy, or, I'm sure after me and Adam talk for an hour or so, he'll be able to pull out a good promo. And then we can just throw that out there and see how it does as far as just educating the world about what Bitcoin does in Adam's sphere. And then also we'll probably do the same thing for a couple other guests as they come on and they talk about super specific topics, not in general what Bitcoin's good for, but maybe one specific component like mining and utilizing stranded energy. I think that's a great use case for Bitcoin that I don't think is spoken enough about. I mean, I've heard a little bit about it just because I'm so deep down this rabbit hole, but I'd like to kind of unearth that and bring that to the general public. Anyway, here we go. This is the Bitcoin intro that Chris made, as talented digital artist. Thank you so much, Chris, dude. You're doing great. Let's go ahead and press play. Let me know what y'all think.
Welcome to the Daily Bitcoin Podcast, where knowledge meets financial freedom. We're here to break down the world of Bitcoin. No fluff, no hype, just real talk about how this digital asset is reshaping the future of money. Inflation is stealing your purchasing power, but what if there was a way to fight back? Enter Bitcoin, the digital currency that empowers you to take control of your wealth. Ever wondered why your money doesn't stretch as far as it used to? At the Daily Bitcoin Podcast, we educate, inform, and inspire. From expert interviews to breaking news, we bring you everything you need to stay ahead in the Bitcoin community. Market updates, expert insights, real-world use cases, and practical tips to navigate the Bitcoin economy. So whether you're a seasoned Bitcoin investor or just getting started, this is your daily dose of Bitcoin wisdom. Don't miss out. Subscribe now, hit that bell icon, and let's break free from the chains of inflation, one Bitcoin at a time. The Daily Bitcoin Podcast, your gateway to financial freedom.
There you go. I thought that was a great job. I only gave him like 2 or 3 days to do it. He did it over the weekend. And so I thought that was a great stab at the kind of stuff we want to make. So hopefully we'll improve upon that. Give me some feedback. Red ink that sucker, just like my 3rd grade English teacher. find out. I'm sure we're gonna have a few comments about some of those shit coins on there. But no, seriously, anything else y'all would like to hear about? I think we can make very specific Bitcoin promos just like that, for different segments of Bitcoin. Maybe like how it's helping the unbanked, out in the bottom 4 billion of the 8 billion people on Earth, and how this really is the first bank that they have in a lot of places that allows them to exchange goods and services on a network that's not in hyperinflation all the time. So I think that's going to be really helpful for them. That would be a great story. I can get my buddy James, who helped me a lot starting the first Bitcoin show that I had worked with him, and he was always out in the what do they call it, Bitcoin at the frontier. So the places where Bitcoin is the banking system out there. And so I think there's some really cool stories to tell. And I want to say that really is the mission of what I'm trying to do. I really want to tell the story of Bitcoin. It's such an interesting story, and the story of the people that are using it. It really is a movement. It's nice to see that we've kind of, I guess, in the last couple years, we came out of this fringe kook coders, maybe like libertarian Ron Paul people, and now you see us getting, almost like we graduated college and we're finally starting our own business, and we're getting into the mainstream, and we're starting to see a lot of nation states weigh in, and politicians weigh in, and businessmen weigh in, and I mean businessmen from small mom and pops using this as a treasury reserve asset, all the way on up to corporate adoption, and like pension funds and stuff like that holding Bitcoin. So I know a lot of Bitcoiners think it's just for the individual and stuff, but it doesn't really matter what we like. It's Bitcoin's just gonna do what it does, and it doesn't care who has it or who owns it. I think companies are going to use Bitcoin however they want, and states are going to use it however they want, and grandma's going to use it however they want, and criminals are going to use it however they want. It seems like Bitcoin is just like a language. It really is just code. It's like a mathematical science of cryptography. Anybody can use it for anything. People can use it for good, for bad. To me, it's just like a tractor. It makes farming way more efficient. And so I don't think it's really indifferent to who uses it, but I think in general it's a force for good because it kind of demands transparency. It can't be. It's very hard to steal and control. Nearly impossible to control. Some people would say it's uncontrollable. It just does what it does. It's about as controllable as algebra. It's you either use it, the formulas work, or you get the formulas wrong and it doesn't work and your bridge collapses. And so, Bitcoin, if you misuse it, if you sometimes mess around with the ETFs, I'm not a big fan of the ETFs because at least for the individual, I think you should learn enough to take self-custody, take it into custody, own the actual underlying asset, and you get all the benefits of it. With an ETF, guys, you're only getting price exposure. So if the number go up and that's the only thing you're here for, well, okay, you'll get that, but you don't really own it. Okay. And it can be taken from you at any time, and it can be taxed, and it can be outlawed, and you can't do anything about it because really you have an IOU. And if the guy you have the IOU to gets pinched by some big government, then you're going to pay the price. So my suggestion, if you're going to get into Bitcoin, learn how to take self-custody, use a good hard wallet. I use Trezor. I know a lot of OGs use Cold Card. There's a lot of good ones out there, but do your own research on that stuff. That's going to be part of your research journey. And as always, go to a Bitcoin local meetup. You got to meet the Bitcoin people. I'm always going to be a big fan of those guys because I've learned so much from them, and they're close friends of mine, and they're just really cool people. A lot of them are entrepreneurs. They're very financially savvy. If you are who you hang around, dude, you want to hang around Bitcoiners because they're very courageous people. They're not easily fooled. They're humble. Well, they have their own version of humility. If they seem a little cocky and arrogant, it's just because they believe so passionately in what they've discovered. And I think we all have. I think that's why we go overboard sometimes with, how we bring people into Bitcoin. We're so excited about what this is going to do for all of humanity. We just want to, sometimes we don't know how to communicate our excitement without coming off as a little arrogant or a little pushy. But it really is something special. You should look into it. Hopefully I can bring you some people that I can interview here that can enlighten you better than I can, give you a few extra flavors of Bitcoiners aside from just me talking all the time. It's going to take me, guys, give me to the end of the month before I really get into the swing of things. I've got Miss Lauren. She's going to be, Laurel, she's going to be helping me starting next week to line up people on the show. I've got a couple other people help me out in the background. I got Chris and a couple art designers that are helping me with some stuff, but I think it's probably going to take at least 30 to 60 days. Wait till I get to the 50th episode. We're only on episode 5. Give me some grace for 45 more episodes, and I think y'all are going to be really proud of what we can do and the value you can bring, that we can bring the Bitcoin community. Until then, please like and subscribe so I can get my user and subscriber base up, mainly just so we can go live across multiple platforms. We are on X, of course. Thank you, X, for allowing us to go live immediately. As soon as you pay your little $8 fee, you're good to go. So I think that's really cool for creators. And then the YouTube channel, we uploaded up to, I think, 4 yesterday. This will be my 5th one. And so we're going to keep going. Guys, thank y'all for the encouragement. Wish me luck in Atlanta. I hope I land something good so that I can roll a lot of my profits into these artists that are just creating good stuff for the community. So, all right, I'll be signing off. Love you guys. I will see y'all tomorrow, same time, 9 p.m. EST, Sunday through Thursday. Actually, it'll be Sunday through Friday for the next 2 weeks because that's when my guests are coming. We'll see y'all here again tomorrow. Again, this is Craig LeBlanc with the Daily Bitcoin Podcast. Have a great night.